For as long as civilization has existed, we have made the exact same trade. We give up our time in exchange for our survival. The ancient Greeks called this kind of measurable, sequential time chronos. It's the tick of the clock and the grid of the calendar. Since the Industrial Revolution, we've been conditioned to view our lives as something sliced up and sold by the hour, letting employers rent our days in predictable shifts. This arrangement built a societal pyramid that has survived every political revolution in history. It runs on a powerful engine: necessity. The brutal truth was that crops had to be harvested, sewers cleaned, and goods manufactured. Because almost no one would volunteer for the grueling labor required to keep a society functioning, systems of poverty, debt, and force evolved to guarantee that someone always did. That very real necessity provided a flawless alibi for a second, darker engine. Because someone had to do the work, those at the top could justify extracting immense wealth and commanding the schedules of everyone below them. Domination became disguised as logistics. For 10,000 years, the resulting poverty and forced labor were accepted as tragic engineering requirements. If a massive underclass had to scrub the toilets or toil in the fields to keep the world turning, it was easier for those at the top to believe they were simply meant to do it. Look at a self-driving car navigating a city street, and you're seeing the old deal break in real time. Automation has shifted from simple tools to outright substitution. Advanced AI and robotics are replacing human labor across both physical tasks and the cognitive, white-collar work we used to think was safe. Because these machines are climbing the skill ladder far faster than workers can retrain, the ancient excuse evaporates. If software and robotics can handle the bulk of our essential logistics, agriculture, and administration, compelling humans to do those tasks under the threat of starvation is no longer a requirement of civilization. But watch where the money flows as those human workers disappear. The massive economic surplus created by this automation doesn't naturally trickle down. By default, it pools directly at the top, leaving the displaced workforce completely detached from the wealth they helped build. This extreme concentration of ownership built a system of digital feudalism. If a handful of corporations own the technology doing all the valuable work, millions of people are left holding unsold hours, with no wages and absolutely no economic floor to stand on. Technology is indifferent to distribution. Without a deliberate restructuring of how money moves, the efficiency gains from AI will remain concentrated in the hands of the owners, leaving the majority of the workforce with no mechanism to access the abundance the machines are creating. Historically, the immense wealth generated by things like the industrial mills or the early internet was never shared willingly. Broad distribution of wealth is always a settlement, extracted through politics. To survive the automation wave, we have to physically build the plumbing of a new economy. We need mechanical policies that automatically route machine productivity directly into public hands, ensuring everyone gets paid when the robots do the heavy lifting. The blueprint already exists. Take the offshore oil rigs in places like Alaska or Norway. Those governments treat natural resources as common property, capturing the wealth and paying out a yearly cash dividend to every resident as an owner, not a charity case. Artificial intelligence was built entirely on humanity's collective data, publicly funded research, and accumulated knowledge. Treating it as a shared public asset, where every citizen receives an equity dividend from its profits, applies that exact same logic to the digital age. As human wages shrink as a share of the economy, our tax systems have to follow the money. Instead of taxing labor, we have to aggressively pivot to taxing corporate profits, land value, and the economic rents generated by dominant tech platforms. And because the ability to process data is becoming the core infrastructure of modern life, AI server farms and compute power must be strictly regulated. Just like water or electricity, access to basic intelligence cannot be gatekept by a private monopoly. These aren't utopian fantasies. This is basic, mandatory accountancy. It's the required math to convert infinite machine output into secure human income. Those taxes and dividends feed directly into a guaranteed floor for every citizen. Universal basic services like housing, healthcare, and transit, paired with a universal basic income. We already know what happens when you implement these systems. Data from global pilot programs, often run through institutions like Finland's Kela social security network, consistently show the same result. Giving people unconditional financial security makes them healthier and more enterprising, not lazy. This floor functions as a recurring dividend from a mechanized economy, a shared return on the data and infrastructure humanity built together. What that money actually buys is composure. When your baseline survival is guaranteed, you gain the leverage to say no to exploitative shifts, walk away from bad employers, and plan a life that extends past next Friday's paycheck. Guaranteeing basic human needs as public infrastructure is the absolute prerequisite. You cannot have any kind of post-work freedom if you are still terrified of starving. Once survival is automated and that financial floor is locked in place, the core question of human existence shifts. What do you do with all those returned hours? For centuries, the industrial steam whistle and the punch clock have enforced a life ruled by Chronos. Even today, the modern gig economy steals time by demanding constant, unpaid availability for unpredictable shifts, forcing us to hold our days open for the benefit of an employer. Watch the rigid calendar grid break apart into free-floating lights representing Kairos, the opportune, meaningful moment. But right now, Kairos is a luxury good. The wealthy buy these moments daily, while the poor must sell their time in advance just to survive. The automation of routine cognitive and physical labor allows us to demote the clock from the absolute owner of our lives to a simple timekeeper in the background. This brings us to the ultimate destination, an isokairotic society. Iso meaning equal, and kairos meaning the opportune moment. It is a civilization where every single person has the equal financial standing and access to seize meaningful moments. Skeptics argue this will just lead to total societal collapse. But look at open source software or community mutual aid. Humans naturally build and contribute massive value when they aren't forced to toil under threat. This transition is a high-stakes gap where old jobs vanish before new dividends are fully established. We have to secure these financial guarantees now, while we still have the political leverage to shape the coming architecture. Anyone arguing that we must maintain the old system of forced labor because it builds character is not protecting society. They are protecting their own position at the top of the pyramid. Oppression is no longer an economic necessity. It is a deliberate choice. We now possess the exact technology required to fund human freedom indefinitely. All we have to do is build the pipes.